Okay, let me try that again. All right. We're back on board. Okay, everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah, no worries.
Very good. All right. So, so really the intent for this was just to, I suppose, create a bit of awareness of the type of activities that we have occurring in the Leicester Medicine Health Research Centre, because I think there's potential for people to, get involved in projects, and this is almost a bit of a showcase as an awareness piece as well, because I think there's a whole lot of potential there. So thank you for coming, those in front of me. And for those who are joining on Zoom, really nice to have you here as well. So first thing I'll say, I'm actually going to hand it, I think, over to Professor Renee Batoon first off. So Renee, you can be at the ready. I won't put this into slideshow mode, but I'll just show this up on the screen. Within the research centre, we really have 4 main units. We did have 5, but with the retirement of Associate Professor Malcolm Anderson last year, we're sort of down to 4 at the moment. But those 4 spaces are what's referred to as lifestyle medicine and positive health. And positive health is a new thing that's growing, and that's really about the integration of psychological and sort of behavioural, health behaviour practices to improve mental health and wellbeing. And that's an area we've been doing a lot of work in for some time now. So I'll speak to that. And I sort of head up that unit. Then we have nicotine addiction / smoking cessation. We have Professor Renee Batoon, who leads the charge there, and she'll be sharing some information about some of the projects that are currently underway and the potential projects that we have as well. And then there's the health humanities. So Associate Professor Carolyn Wickett will be speaking to that and sharing just a little bit about the projects. And we hopefully will have Brett dropping in, Professor Brett Mitchell, who'll be dropping in because we have a unit on infection control, and obviously he does some remarkable stuff in that space. And he's joining us again, which is very cool. So he said he's got another meeting, but he might be able to pop in about halfway through. And if he does, he'll say a few words about that and some of the opportunities that are present to us in that space. So, Renee, would you be happy to share your screen? I'll stop sharing.
I will be.
And we're going to, and unfortunately the audio is only coming through my computer. So if you need to move closer, then feel free to do that.
I'm hoping you can see this then.
Not yet, we can't.
You can't?
No.
Are you allowing me to share screen?
If you click on share screen, does it allow you to?
I did that. I'll just go back and see if you are allowing me to share screen.
Yeah.
We'll try this again.
Oh, there we go. There, something's working now.
Something is working now. Can you see that?
Yes, we can. All right.
Sorry about that, folks. It's always a bit fraught, isn't it? How's that? Better?
That's great. Excellent.
Okay. Thank you. And good afternoon, everybody. It is afternoon, and I'm very grateful and always humbled by the acceptance of Avondale for this unit, in particular the nicotine addiction and smoking cessation unit. I wasn't going to say too much about myself, except I have a whole lot of roles and I do a whole lot of things, and that's about it. It's just there in front of you. I am pretty busy, and just to show you some of the things that our unit is doing. So actively teaching nicotine addiction and smoking cessation courses all over the place, doing graduate online micro-credential courses, some of you might have heard about, and short courses for allied health all over the state and federally as well. There's not a lot of teaching of this subject around Australia, just so in case you didn't know that. You'd have thought there should be, given the prevalence of smoking and of course the tragedies, the morbidity and mortality, but there isn't. So we have a bit of a niche here, which is good. Personally, and as part of Avondale, I do a lot of consultations regarding policy about smoking, cessation, and now vaping for both state and federal governments. We do a lot of Indigenous health work, a lot. I have done that over my career, a great deal, visiting, clinical work, online work, teaching both in the metropolitan area of Sydney and in remote communities. So there's an opportunity to do a lot of work for those who are interested in our First Nation work to do with smoking cessation. And last but not least, a lot of mental health consultation, because that's where the prevalence is also particularly high in smoking patients. So we engage a great deal with mental health services, and I have, again, lots of roles to play in our area health services and federally and statewide. And I'm particularly engaged with Royal North Shore, for those who don't know that, where we do a lot of projects to do with smoking and smoking cessation and research in that group. So the idea for today, I understand, is to talk a little bit about the potential that we might have for yourselves to be engaged with projects that we're currently looking at and doing. I've got some pictures here just to tart up the presentation, just for your information. I'm not sure if you can see my little arrow, but there's things about tobacco plant. This here in the left, some of you might know, I think Kevin Price knows it very well. This is Carve being made in the community in Fiji, and we're doing a Carve study I'll tell you about in a moment. The next slide is a picture is that of a vape. Some of you have come across vaping already. And on the right is a saliva test, which I'll tell you a little bit about some of the potential studies we're looking at, the products of smoking and salivary nicotine, or cotinine is the name. So just for those who are interested in this Carve study, I'm just going to describe very quickly. There's a lot about Carve on this slide, but in fact, the reality is there's not a lot of studies being done about Carve. It's a plant some of you might know about that's drunk, it's sort of mashed up and drunk, and it has a ritualistic and community and cultural importance in the Pacific Islands. Why am I interested in Carve at all, given we're doing smoking and smoking cessation? For those who don't know this, when you smoke anything, when you burn anything, organic material, and we're talking about smoking marijuana or smoking any leaf at all, any organic material, you produce these chemicals that affect your liver function, stimulates the liver to produce these liver enzymes. Now, some of you might be aware that smokers drink a lot more alcohol than non-smokers, and they do that because the enzymes that affect alcohol weaken alcohol because you smoke. It weakens medications because you smoke. So for those who are interested in mental health, those who know this, clozapine, antipsychotics are affected by smoking. It makes them weaker. So what's that got to do with Carve? If you're a cigarette smoker and you're drinking Carve, it will make Carve weaker, and you will need more of it. So you spend more money and more time and energy if you're a smoker. Now, ironically, or not, some of you might know this, in the South Pacific, and that's one of the projects Kevin Price and I are doing right now, is to reduce smoking in the Pacific region, because the prevalence is some of the highest in the world. For those who don't know this, Kiribati has got the highest prevalence of smoking in the world per capita. You'd have thought other countries, no, you're wrong. Check this out, Pacific Islands. So if you're smoking and you're using Carve, you're going to be doing those products a great deal more. So we're looking at collaborating, and we've started this already. We've submitted ethics approvals for this. So a student's role would be to collaborate with researchers to collect and analyse data and responses to questionnaires in Fiji. So we're doing online work. We're doing a lot of collaboration with our colleagues in Fiji. So I just thought I'd mention that's an exciting and interesting and totally innovative project we're right on right now. That's not one of them. We're also looking at using saliva swabs for vaping. Now, vaping's become a very important area in the work I do. Vaping for smoking cessation, nicotine addiction. You can imagine that vaping is becoming a very hot topic. I've given a lot of talks for Avondale. Some of you might have seen them. They're online. They get a lot of press nationally and a lot of press in our state. And we're looking at what we can do to encourage young vapers to desist, obviously, and looking about nicotine content in vaping. And so that I've got a picture of a vape. If you haven't ever seen them, I'd be surprised you haven't. But also how we're analysing vape. This is entirely novel, hasn't been done before, looking at the vaping content that's extracted by using saliva, literally a test that you can do on the spot, a bit like now our rat and assessments, right? You can do this with saliva in your own mouth and look at your own results straight away. So this is totally new, hasn't been done before, and it's a very exciting progress for us to be able to use this in young vapers who think there's no nicotine in their vapes. So that's the student's role, will be to help us develop this as a questionnaire, develop an ethics approval for this. So there's quite a lot of roles for students to engage with that particular project. The other project that, again, is a bit of a long-standing development and concern we have in our emergency departments. Some of you know who work in health, we always ask about smoking. You're supposed to ask, do you smoke or not? Like as somebody comes into a hospital facility, you're supposed to ask that, but it's never that straightforward as to what happens next. Now, having just told you earlier that smoking affects your medications, it actually affects almost all the medications patients might be admitted for. So do they know that? Does our emergency department know these interrelations? Probably not is the answer. So medications that our smokers are taking have to be told to the emergency departments as people are admitted, given that you're not allowed to smoke now once you're in hospitals. So the role of the student would be to help with a guideline, a protocol, and a strategy for these acute settings in emergency. And we're talking emergency departments nationwide. Nationwide, there's nothing, which is pretty dreadful. And so you can see the urgency there. And that includes vaping, I might add. So here I've got another project that we've been doing some work with in the past, and that's to do with weight gain. And there might be some of you who are interested in weight and weight gain in Australia, just generally as a topic as dietitians. Some of you might be interested in this topic. Why do people put on weight when they stop smoking? We've looked at their thyroid function, and lo and behold, we came up with some interesting results in some individuals. So we've done some case studies, and we'd like to further these case studies, looking at a bigger survey, looking at why some people, is it their thyroid? Something is happening to thyroid function to people who put on weight when they stop smoking. I'm happy to discuss at length the complexities of this, because it is complex. It involves thyroid stimulating hormone. It involves the pituitary gland, but that's probably the basis for why people put on a lot of weight. So there's weight gain and weight gain, and some of you might have heard about this already, and it's the bigger weight gain that we're very interested in. This is something I'm looking at recruiting any of you. Tomorrow would be great. Yesterday would be even better. For those who are interested in it, you can look this up online at Avondale in the library. We're looking at and producing very important fact sheets. One of the most important things that's happened since the advent, if you like, of vaping is the misinformation out there about nicotine, the safety of nicotine, the fact that it's not safe, the idea that people think it's benign. It's okay. You can vape because all the other stuff isn't in it. Well, nicotine's not benign, and I'm making it my business to produce these fact sheets. And I've just given a little example of that. You can look at this online. We've had downloads that have been absolutely extraordinary. And I think Darren can attest to the extraordinary amount of people looking at these fact sheets, including our government, including our Department of Health, who are now taking these on board and posting them everywhere, including Queensland Health has just decided to take these on and post them, because people, as I said, are full of misinformation about the so-called safety of nicotine. And any of you interested in helping me, as I said yesterday, with the very next one, which is nicotine in the lungs, your name will be there as a student. We've already got medical students doing this, and if you're interested, let me know, especially about the ones to do with the lung or the brain, mental health, pregnancy, carcinogenesis. Let me know yesterday. That'd be great. I think this is last but not least is this interesting, I think, project might be a PhD project for anybody. We know that the Seventh-day Adventists, in particular the 5-day plan, has been one of the first, and I know this to be true, and Kevin, again, I keep citing you, Kevin. Kevin Price has been heavily involved in this almost since its inception, not quite, but since the mid-1950s. Kevin's been there since the 60s, I believe, looking at smoking cessation in the Australian population using the 5-day plan in particular. So nobody's written the history of this at all, and there is a lot of information. There's a lot of people that we could potentially interview, and we're looking at writing a paper on the history of the role of the Seventh-day Adventist in Australian smoking cessation. It has a really very big role, and I've certainly had interactions with these programs since the 1960s. So I've been in, as I said, engaged with Kevin Price since then, and there are many others. I know that Professor Daniel Renaud, who I've met online, would be very interested in helping collaborate as a historian on this particular project for any of you who might be interested. So just so you know, we've got some very innovative and different and interesting projects. If you have a project in mind or you have some thoughts, I'm happy to talk to you and discuss any of those projects I've just mentioned or anything that you might have in mind. Happy to talk and engage with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we can hear that. Hey, you know, in all honesty, Renee's impact in this space cannot be understated. She's actually the journal, the editor-in-chief of the journal Smoking Cessation, and to have her on our team producing the kind of you know, quality impact that she's doing. I mean, as she mentioned, alluded to, you know, governments are actually accessing resources that we have, or that Renee has created on our behalf here. So what I really want to stare down the barrel for a moment to any of the potential students or staff members who are looking for research projects that they might want to engage with. You've got a whole host of ideas just there, and as you captured the mood state, Renee is really keen to get some help and assistance in that space. So some really great projects. So hey, Renee, thank you so much for all that you're doing. It's really stellar. All right, I'm going to jump now. So that was the sort of the nicotine/smoking cessation unit. I'm going to skip down to Carolyn, and we've got here, so and one of our, we did refer to this, in fact, in the board meeting that follows this, where we, at the moment, this is called Medical Humanities, and we're looking to change that to Health and Humanities, so preempting an affirmative response in the board meeting in about an hour's time. We've labelled it as such. And Carolyn, can you hear us okay? Are you ready to speak?
Perfect.
All right, and I'll just put up this image here that I think might be helpful. Go for it.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Darren. And I just want to really acknowledge, first of all, probably the inspirational leadership of Darren and Brett, who have over the years really engaged and connected with medical humanities. It's a field, certainly when I was doing my doctorate, one of my supervisors was a medical practitioner. My research work was in cancer narratives, and medical humanities was very big at Sydney University, and particularly big at Durham and the UK. It's got a really strong presence, and essentially it's the ways in which humanities can connect in the health sphere space to produce really positive outcomes. And often we might see those things in such examples of community-based projects. Many of you will see music or choirs for people with stroke, choirs for people with dementia. We have really ageing positive things where arts or literature or memoir is used to capture memories or legacy build. The use of video, creative artifacts, exhibitions, particularly in palliative care spaces, we see a lot of art being used, poetry being one medium. And so, Darren, I just want to thank you for the grant that you gave us from the centre, because this grant, I'll just say something a little bit about this immediate project that you can see on your screen. So one of my key interests over the years is the way in which writing can be a therapeutic intervention for people with illness to help produce wellbeing outcomes or to support their wellbeing. This book, This Gift, This Poem, really originated conceptually a number of years ago before COVID, and it then grew and had its own urgency with the team. You'll see some names there, Jean Kent, David Musgrave, Jen Webb. They're quite big names and players in poetry and writing sphere. And this book also is supported by Judith Beveridge. She recently won the Prime Minister's Award for Literature. But essentially we had famous poets across the country contribute a gift of a poem to people who were either in hospital or in aged care to really stem that sense of isolation. They also then wrote a reflection about that piece of work, which was their gift. So it was an incredibly generous project where we've had really high profile names come, with that idea of health and humanities to say we want to give back. So just before Christmas, just for context, this book was going to be launched last year, but with COVID, the Writers' Festival was postponed. So it's actually being launched formally at the Newcastle Writers' Festival in April. But over Christmas, it was an absolute privilege to take this book to certain contexts in hospitals for people in palliative care who were limited, couldn't access visitors, and we hope that the humanities at their best speak into those spaces of isolation to promote belonging and connectedness. So in terms of wanting to inspire and engage potential colleagues in this space, what I am going to do, I'm going to be hosting a Create and Collaborate forum where we come together, particularly those who are working in arts and humanities, just to think about their discipline and the ways in which their artifacts or their practices can really build or contribute to community to achieve some kind of real world impact. And then obviously, the adjunct to that is obviously to write up research. So obviously from this book project, our community strategy is we're having a number of library readings. We'll have a number of launches across the country. And of course, we're writing a research article about this project. So more to come, Darren. We will be inviting colleagues to come and have lunch to brainstorm, to celebrate the arts and humanities, and also obviously theology, who engage in exegetical work and texts, and just see how we can connect this back to the centre. But if I can, Darren, if I could just leave you with a quote from Judith Beveridge from this book, and I'll make it a bit wider than poetry and insert the word arts here, because if you want to know anything about what at its heart medical humanities does, this is probably a pretty good descriptor. And it says, arts is an attempt by the human heart and mind to heal the distance and separation we can sometimes experience that sense that the world is hidden by appearances and that there is something deeper going on underneath. At best, the arts provide us with means of understanding ourselves and others, of providing empathic engagement. And I think about the world, the crisis that we're in right now globally. I think about the isolation from COVID, people building back with mental health challenges, that the arts has such a role, a healing role, and a capacity for transcendence, compassion and expansion. So I just invite you to think about medical humanities and health and humanities. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Yeah, it's interesting. Caroline didn't mention there, but we actually have we're on a team together with a PhD student, Maddie, who's decided to pivot a little bit with her project. So she's looking at caring for people with diabetes and diabetes distress and self-efficacy. We know that those things are very much linked to health outcomes. And what we're going to be using is one of the interventions will be essentially a narrative medicine. So, so it's an exciting space. It's actually really cool. I think that, yeah, it's a relatively new area to me, but the more I'm engaging with it, the more I realise the importance of stories and the arts and humanities in health and happiness and wellbeing. So thank you so much, Caroline, for that. Brett, I'm just wondering if Brett's with us at all. If you are, can you maybe unmute yourself? If not, I just want to give everyone else a go before I started yabbering away. That doesn't look like he's with us yet. So so what we've touched on, just recap, health and humanities with Caroline there, the nicotine addiction and smoking cessation with Renee. And then one of the other units that I mentioned was this whole idea of lifestyle medicine and positive health. And I've actually, quite a few, many projects in this sort of lifestyle medicine, positive health space. I'm just sort of cherry picking a few. But one of the key sort of interventions that we use for a lot of our current work is this thing called the LIFT project. I know that you've probably heard me banging on about this for because everyone gets tired of your wife is sick of me talking about it. But anyway, I thought I'd just show you this real quick little video which gives you a bit of an insight what it's about, and then I'll tell you about some of the work we're doing and the context that we're doing it in. Let's see if this works.
Today, we are facing a wellbeing crisis. Rates of depression and anxiety are escalating worldwide, and it's impacting us all, either personally or through those we care about. But there is light in the darkness. Hi, my name is Dr. Darren Morton, and for as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated by the how and why of wellbeing. This has led me to dive deep into research from the fields of neuroscience, lifestyle medicine and positive psychology, which is showing that despite our life circumstances and genetics, which determines about half of our happiness, we get to choose the other half through our daily choices.
Diet is the single leading predictor variable for all-cause mortality and total risk of chronic disease in developed countries around the world.
The old-fashioned way to make behavior changes was to kind of scare ourselves. As we've learned more about positive psychology and the power of positive emotions as a driver of those health behaviors, is that we're naturally driven to want more positive experiences.
There's many people on the planet who don't really know how fabulous your body and mind can feel.
I invite you to join me on an educational adventure where we'll talk to renowned experts, conduct fun experiments, and discover simple but science-based strategies that can powerfully lift your mood and your life. And I'll show you not just what these strategies are, but also why and how they work.
So that's the actual intervention. But what we're doing is rolling. I wish. So what we've got is a couple of various different projects where we're using that intervention in different settings. So it actually, we first taught that in 2016 to our education students, and we did a study on that. That was the first paper there, published in the American Journal of lifestyle medicine. We did it again in 2017. And what's happened is every year since, and it's sort of grown now, so we had that class this morning, and we have all of our students now, including theology. And yeah, well, you can talk to the boss people about filling that off, who are engaged in that program. But as part of that, we actually collect data. So, potential project, we've got a couple of publications, but we have some work being done at the moment analysing the data, looking at what are the trends over the past 6 years or so that we've been offering this program. How has online learning influenced that? How has COVID, lockdowns even influenced? We capture data on the wellbeing of the students before and at the end of the semester after the intervention. So there's a capacity for a whole lot of projects in that space, and if anyone would love to get involved in that, there's definitely, we'd love to chat with you. There's also a spin-off version of that, the LIVE project called the Live More project that's been used in the Adventist network. And in this one here, this was actually the focus of a couple of randomised control trials, one led by Mel Renfrew and one by Geraldine Crispinko. And you can see they've had a series of publications in some really good journals there, including BMC Psychology and the Journal of Positive Psychology. And what that's really focused on is within a faith-based community, but there's no reason to suspect that wouldn't translate to other communities as well. What sort of outcomes do we see? And not only that, and I think this is one of our, particularly my key research interests, is how can we actually make these interventions when we deliver them? How can we make them work best? And so, for example, Mel's projects, there's some publications there relating to that, was looking at, for example, if we offer online versions or face-to-face meetup groups, Zoom meetup groups, how does that influence the outcomes of, say, a purely online delivery? And so there's been some really fascinating outcomes, but the truth is, whilst there've been you guys have got about 8 publications out of your data, there's quite a large data set there, so there's potential to mine that and to publish further from it as well. Here's another one. This is one that I'm especially interested in, and that is early in lockdown, we actually had Sunshine Coast Council come to us, and they were interested in using this intervention on a large scale for the entire community. And so we ended up by creating a model whereby they could do that. They've run it a couple of times. They've actually had 6,000 participants through the program up there. And you can see here's just some of the infographics of what people say about it. And just, like 99% would recommend it to a friend. So it's really, really positive feedback that's been received. Lake Macquarie City Council, we ran that last year. You can see they actually had about 4,000 registrations for that as well. Once again, some really positive feedback. We're looking at offering that again in the second half of this year. But there's an increasing interest by other councils. We have Maroondah City Council in Victoria, who kicks it off in June. Adelaide City Council is running at the moment. We're talking with Gold Coast Council. And yesterday morning, I actually had a meeting with Beyond Blue because they're interested in moving into this space of preventive health. So anyway, I think there's once again, we collect data on all the participants who go through this program, and that's just sitting there ready to be written up. We get both quantitative and qualitative data. So if anyone, this is a particular topic that interests you, this is a growing space, and there's certainly potential to do some good research in there. So that's, there's actually quite a few initiatives happening in the lifestyle medicine positive health space, but I'll share this one here just to wrap it up. As I said, I'm just cherry picking a few. This one here is, I think, a really fascinating project. We have Dr. Cam McDonald, who teaches into our lifestyle medicine course, and he's involved with a company called PH360, which what's becoming quite popular at the moment is this idea of personalised medicine and personalised nutrition, whereby you can get, sort of genotype, and then they'll say, hey, for you and your particular genetic code, this would be a good thing to do in terms of here might be some good helpful foods for you, here might be some best ways to be active, and so anyway, they've come up with quite a novel method, because getting genetically tested can be quite expensive. They have another way of assessing your genotype. And anyway, it's a great project. They're getting some really good outcomes. And so we're partnered with them, and they'll be doing a project whereby they'll be looking at, for people who are suffering with type 2 diabetes, using this personalised medicine approach, how that might be able to influence their health outcomes and disease progression. So that's a really exciting project that got stalled a little bit last year with COVID, but they'll be undertaking a randomised controlled trial looking at that. So there's just a couple of, there are other projects as well. I don't want to completely overwhelm people, but what I'll just check in a moment to see if Brett is with us, but really what the intent here is to say, there's a lot of activity and a lot of things that people could potentially get involved with. So if any of these projects that have been showcased sort of jump out at you and you think, oh, I'd love to be part of that, there's potential for that, and we'd welcome your involvement. So just let me know if any of these take your interest. Brett, are you with us at all? All right, he did say he'd be tied up. So I'll just say on behalf of Brett, so we have our 4th unit is this infection control space. As you know, Brett is doing remarkable work in there and is producing some incredibly high-powered and high-impact work. And when he gets back with us, there's going to be a whole lot more opportunities. Brett's been amazing in that he's remained a conjoint with us throughout his period at his short sojourn at Newcastle University. But throughout that time, he's actually kept his connection with Avondale, which has been so helpful to us. So we're really appreciative of that. But also, he's actually involved some Avondale academics in his projects. And when they return here, there's going to be a whole lot more scope for that as well. So obviously, infection control, very topical at present. And so, yes, it's another space, another opportunity for people to get involved in. That's probably all we wanted to say. I know that we talked pretty quick, but like I say, really we just wanted to kick this one off. We're planning on having a research colloquium once a month. It'll be the first Thursday lunchtime, probably, of each month. And in there, it won't be a showcase of like, here are 100 topics going. We'll have one particular person who'll present their topic, or perhaps two, just so there'll be a bit of a deeper dive. And yeah, we really welcome you to join us for those. It's a great time just to, I suppose, be academically stimulated, and so yeah, we really thank you for that. If there are any questions, you're welcome to ask them. Otherwise, you can eat your lunch. Anyone online got any questions they'd like to ask?
Darren, I just have affirmation, because I think your leadership's been absolutely not just stellar but inspiring. You really build capacity and are making such a difference in the world. So I just really want to affirm you for that kind of research that is really making a difference, not just, producing papers that just sit in a bin somewhere.
Oh, thank you, Carolyn. You know what? Hey, I say this all the time. We're small here at Avondale, but we punch well above our weight, and I think that there's divine blessing and guidance in that. So it's a real privilege and honour to be part of what goes on here. Thank you. Bye. See you guys. I'll be sending out some correspondence about the next research colloquium. So yeah, hope to see you there. Bye. Have a great day.